and the rich nations transferred wealth to help the poor nations, and that was always the way it would work, to keep the whole solvent, if you will. But since the collapse, the poorer nations, which is the periphery nations, the southern nations, have just been like losing money hand over fist. That is to say, they're running massive deficits, they can't pay their debts, their countries are in a shambles. Greece is the flagship of that fleet, but also involved in there are other countries you've heard of, like Spain, Portugal, Italy, Ireland. And these folks all are in this poorer periphery, are having a horrible time trying to pay their bills.
Mm-hmm.
So what this necessitates is that the rich countries, of which there's less and less, and essentially, when we talk about the rich countries in Europe, really now we're just
talking about Germany and Switzerland.
And so Germany is being asked, indirectly, to pay for all these poor countries, take their nation's wealth and shift it to these poorer nations to help keep the entire thing solvent.
Yeah.
And that really is the crux of the issue.
So just to encapsulate this for our listeners, there are more than one country in the European Union that have extreme fiscal crisis underway right now, and they're called the pigs countries. It's Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain. Now the first one up on the chopping block is Greece. They have to default on their debt. In order to avoid they would need extreme bailout money from the European Union, which those countries can't pitch to their own people either. The people of Germany don't understand why they're going to have to pick up the tab for all of the pigs countries right now, and so Angela Merkel cannot do an adequate bailout to satisfy the bond markets. So what happens is Greece is now in negotiations to try, and the rest of Europe is involved too. They want the bondholders to take a haircut, right?
Well, this is essentially the deal. There's no law that says Greece has to default, but their debt load is such that it would be like yourself with your home, and you have like 500 mortgages now.
Yeah.
And no amount of hard work is going to pay those things, and that's just a mathematical reality.
Yeah.
So the fight now is about how do we ameliorate that debt? How do we make that payable? And that requires, as you said, that requires the original people who loaned all that money to now take what they call a haircut. You're just going to have to agree voluntarily to take
voluntarily, Matthew. The voluntarily is the key word in this, and I'll get to that in a second. But go on. Sorry for interrupting you. Voluntarily is key, right?
Right, and so you have to voluntarily reduce the amount that these people are owed to you. If they owe you $100, you got to be happy with 50. If they're paying you 20% interest, you got to be happy with 2%, 3% interest. And you're going to get beat up, and you're going to lose money, but down the road you'll get it all back because the ship will
that's how bankruptcy works, right?
Wonderful.
That's how bankruptcy works. When someone has to go bankrupt, you're just going to have to take what you can get from it. You can't get blood from a stone, and right now Greece is a stone. And now the
complicating factor is that these folks that are being asked to take haircuts and all that rest of it, well, that's not their money because they borrowed that money. No one has any money in this. This is all debt borrowed against other debt, borrowed against other debt.
Right.
So for them to take a haircut, then the guy behind them is going to have to take a haircut.
Exactly.
And this is what's called contagion.
Exactly. Now, when I said the word voluntarily is key in this situation, if those bondholders right now do not voluntarily take a haircut, they can say, no, we're going to take all of our money, or we're going to take nothing, or you're going to default. And then if Greece defaults, what happens is if bond agency A or hedge fund A owns this bond, but they've got a credit default swap on it, right? They don't have to settle for 50% of it. They can just say, well, my client, the Greece just defaulted here, so now whoever sold me the credit default swap has to become good for 100% of it, right? So all of a sudden you have a domino effect of credit default swaps going through the system, and then everybody's got to pay everybody, but no one's got the money to pay anybody. Right? So if the bond agencies don't take this haircut voluntarily, then it kicks in all the credit default swaps, which will send ripple effects through the entire financial system.
Can I jump in here and ask a quick question too? Just because I'll admit I am not as informed on economics as either of you two, but the question that instantly comes to my mind here is, what amount of the responsibility for this problem lies with decision making in Greece, and what amount of the problem lies with the bond market, as you guys are saying, lending money that they don't even have and then expecting it to be paid back when it can't even be paid back in the first place. So who's to blame here, or what percentage of blame goes to Greece and what percentage of blame goes to the bond market?
Well, my comment would be it's irrelevant who's to blame, because that ship has sailed. However, really everyone's to blame, and you can start with the humble person of Greece who lived too well for his or her income. You can move to the government of Greece that supported their citizens who lived too well for their income, and then you move out to the EU, who let it all slide to keep the thing together, and then you go to the bond markets, the lenders. They in essence looked the other way and hoped that life would continue to get better and they'd be paid back. And then there's financialization and all the speculation, and all of which was legal. And really, the guilt finger touches everyone and everything. Mm-hmm. There really is no bad guy.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Matthew. That's not relevant anymore. The fact of the matter is, Greece owes the money and can't pay it, but to a certain extent, they have to make sure that this haircut is affordable to the bondholders too, because if it's not affordable to the bondholders and not agreeable to them, then the bondholders are going to say, are just going to kick in their credit default swaps. And just to make sure our listeners know what a credit default swap is, if you're a bank and you can create currency out of thin air, and if you want to go and make a bad loan with that currency, well, it's totally justifiable if to your people anyway, if you can take out insurance on that loan, which is what a credit default swap is. So if A wants to loan Greece $100 million and B is willing to insure that loan, right? It's called a credit default swap. So if Greece doesn't come good for it to A, then A turns to B and says, well, you sold me the insurance on this loan, so if Greece wouldn't pay, you would. You know what I mean? And that's what's called a credit default swap. So if you're loaning money, you take out insurance on that. It's a financial derivative instrument called a credit default swap, which means everyone's always got a 100% chance of getting paid back until the system crashes and no one gets paid back.
Yeah, it's just an insurance policy, just like fire insurance or auto insurance. If something bad happens, you'll get paid.
Right.
The issue with credit default swaps is that unlike an insurance policy on your home, you can only have one fire insurance policy on your home. But if you write a bond package, then you can write unlimited amount of insurance policies against it. So on a underlying instrument, say a bond worth $100 million. There could be, $1 trillion worth of insurance on it, but we don't know that number because while the bond markets are regulated, the CDS markets and the derivative markets are not. So one of the problems in this contagion scenario is, as you said, if bondholders get triggered and they don't get paid back, well, then that triggers their insurance policies, these CDSs, in absolutely no one on the planet knows the value, who holds those, who wrote them, how many there are.
Exactly.
It's a mystery.
Because the derivatives market is essentially unregulated, correct?
Totally unregulated, completely unregulated. They have their own regulating body, but enough said.
Yeah, that's the fox is regulating the hen house.
Essentially.
The question that comes to my mind then would be, in some ways it sounds like it could benefit a person if the money that they've lent, if I lend you money and you default on it, but I have insurance that's worth more than what I lent you, I understand that the problem is that they may not be able to collect that insurance, but if there's a chance that I can lend $1 million that I don't even have, and then insure it multiple times and maybe recover some money there, it almost seems like it's set to collapse. Like it was
designed to do that, right?
Designed to, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely nobody wants to trigger a credit default swap, because that is the unknown.
Right.
Then you're launched into the unknown, and that is even if you have insurance policies written against your bond, you don't want to trigger them. You would much rather deal with the bond, because that is the devil you know. You do not want to launch yourself, your firm, your industry, your country, and the world into God knows what by brazenly saying, well, I don't give a darn, give me the money, right? Trust me, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But isn't that essentially where we've come to at Greece? Greece is up against the wall, and they're being told to pick one way or the other, right?
Well, Greece has more power in this situation. Matthew, can we come back to this after a track and continue this conversation?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to Santogold, Les Artistes.